Meeting will come to order. Today is November 24th. This is a meeting of the Lakeville Conservation Commission. We have a fairly short agenda, but let's see how quickly we can get it done. Let me do the required reading first. As a preliminary matter, this is Bob Bouchard, Chairman of the Lakeville Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So members, please identify yourselves. Joseph.
Mark. Present.
Mark. Joseph.
Present.
John.
Yeah.
Josh.
Here.
Nancy.
Here.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And do we have any one who is scheduled to speak on behalf of the application, either engineers, owners, or abutters? Please identify yourself.
Jamie Bissonette for 27 Shore Ave.
Okay. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
Adam Barkley for 93 Vaughn Street.
Adam, I can barely hear you.
Sorry, I'll hold the mic up. Adam Barkley, 93 Vaughn Street.
Okay, that was good. Thank you. Who else do we have?
That's it.
Okay. Let me continue then. This is an open meeting of the Lakeville Conservation Commission and is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement, the open meeting law, to hear all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public borders are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before. If members wish to engage in discussion, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. Chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Very good. All right, so let's move on to the first item of the agenda, 93 Vaughn Street. This is a hearing that was continued for an RDA. The applicant is Barkley. Ms. Barkley, would you like to go ahead?
Sure, yeah, this is a continuation from a couple weeks ago. The work has not changed. I have updated the documentation to include a site map. It's still going to be removing 3 trees, an extension of our existing deck. Part of that extension will include a screened-in room. And then there'll also be an above-ground pool. That's part of this.
Hey, Adam, can you hold that mic up closer to you?
Yeah, sorry about that. You want me to repeat all that?
No, we heard it. Just
I got it.
Okay.
Is that a question, Mark?
Yes, please. Mr. Chair, I want to thank Mr. Barkley for providing us with the GSI map as we requested. That's very helpful. I assume at some point you have been out to the site, Mr. Chair, as the agent. Based on the review of the plan he's provided, a question I have is the trees in the red circle that he proposes to remove, will those trees have the stumps removed?
So
Mr. Barkley?
Yep. So the plan would be for the maple and the pine tree that those stumps would be removed. The willow, it's a really large old tree. I think at this point we weren't planning on removing the stump just due to the size of it. I've talked to a few of the tree folks and also an excavator that works with the tree company, and they said that they would recommend leaving the stump of the willow if
Yeah.
at all possible. So again, that would, I guess, be up to this committee, but that's our plan as it is now.
Yeah, Mark, I'd rather see it left behind for a couple of reasons. And it's like you said, it's huge, but it's also very rotten. It's not going to take very long for what remains to be gone, and I'd rather not disturb what's there because of its proximity to the wetland, and so leave well enough alone.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine if that willow stump stays. I guess my only concern is the siltation barrier looks to be up gradient of the stump removal. And my recommendation would be, even if there was a concern of the removal of the stumps damaging the siltation barrier, that the siltation barrier then be immediately installed down gradient of that stump removal, so that there is soil being disturbed with the removal of the maple and the pine, and that the siltation barrier should be down gradient to catch any siltation.
Yeah, and actually where the silt barrier is drawn on this would be downhill from the maple and the pine.
Is the green line the wetland line?
Yeah.
Correct.
It seems like we would want the siltation barrier to be between the stump removal and the wetland.
But
It
the
is.
number
It
one
is.
tree would be the stump of the willow that we would not be removing.
Oh, I see. All
Yeah.
right. I got you. 2 and 3 labeled over there in the blue circle are the stump to be removed.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
And I'll be notified when they're ready to do it, so I'll be able to approve the erosion control barrier once it's in place.
Very good. I have no other questions.
Good. Anyone else? Question? Did you all get the revision, the maps?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Just making sure that the system is working. It's a little cumbersome, but all right. So anyone else? That's it. All right. Do I hear a motion then?
I make a motion that we issue a -3 determination with the conditions that the stump of the willow tree is to remain, and the agent will be called to inspect the siltation barrier.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. We'll have a roll call vote.
Just want to state,
Joseph?
could I state for the record that John made the second? Just for minutes purposes.
Oh,
We
okay.
both kind of spoke at the same time, but just John, I think, beat me to it.
Probably a little bit.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So Joseph,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Josh,
Aye.
myself, aye. All right, so the motion passes. Sir, you're all set.
Sure, I have one clarification on that. So we need approval for the siltation barrier once we begin the removal of the stumps, but we can take the trees down without a siltation barrier. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on, our next item is 27 Shore Ave, a notice of intent, and this is filed by Zenith Consulting. Is that you, Jamie?
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, how you doing?
We're good.
Good, good. All right, Mr. Chair, can I share my screen?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. All right, good evening. Before you tonight is 27 Shore Ave. This is right on Long Pond and Clark Shores. In this case, what the applicant is looking to do is they're looking to raise the existing house and construct a new flood compliant dwelling. What that'll consist of is the first living floor will be higher than the 100-year flood elevation of 57.2. The lower area, which will be a garage area, will actually have flood openings in the back. So flood waters as they come up can enter into the basement area to not impede or displace storage waters onto other people's properties. As part of this site plan for improvement, what they're also doing is they're putting in a new advanced treatment septic system that's been approved by the Board of Health. This is a bottomless sand filter with an Aramco AX20 treatment pod. And we're also reconfiguring the driveway so that we have a small yet net reduction of total impervious area on site. We're proposing erosion control to wrap the majority of the site all the way up to the 100-foot buffer on the sides. There is a wetland that is across the street, across Shore Ave. We took the wetland location, I believe, from a superseding order plan that was done years back between Azor Land Sciences and the DEP with the help of the Conservation Commission. So we use that line. It's essentially the edge of the road, the edge of the gravel or ground asphalt shavings side of Shore Ave. So I guess that's it in a nutshell. We're showing a dewatering basin on site. I know one of the questions we typically get is how are we going to handle any type of dewatering? Well, in this case, we're going to be putting in some type of a footing structure. So it's going to be minimal excavation in depth. Also, the septic system will need to be excavated as well. So we will utilize the dewatering basin, and as our notes say, if we do decide on-site conditions dictate it needs to be a bigger dewatering basin, then they will have to increase the size of that. I can go over specific details on sheet 2 for the bottomless sand filter if anyone has any questions. If not, I'm happy to try to answer specific questions you have.
So Jamie, you're actually moving the house back a couple of feet?
Yep, we are. We're putting on a deck, and here, let me zoom in just a little bit. That's a great question, John. Let's see. Yeah, what we're doing here is we're kind of squaring the house up with the property lines. The house as it sits right now is kind of on an angle. So what we're doing is we're pulling it a little bit further away from the pond, and we're actually putting a deck on the back. Right now, there is a small area in the back here with some stairs, but this will be I guess it'll be the first level, but it'll be much higher than the existing one. It'll have some nice views.
Jamie, for clarification purposes, when you say raise, what do you mean? Because it has two possibilities.
It does.
Go ahead.
RAISE is to lift. RAZE means to demolish. So when we talk about raising the existing structure here, we're talking about demolishing it and constructing a new one. So the existing structure is going to be raised, and then a new building that will be elevated higher than the existing one to be in compliance with FEMA regulations is the intent here.
So is that going to require filling around the foundation?
No, the nice thing about it is that we can build it exactly at grade. The whole point is that that lower level will allow the floodwaters in and then back out.
So similar to a walkout basement, or
it's going to be exactly like that, except at the bottom you have to provide, FEMA requires flood openings. Yep.
Yeah, I was there today actually, and walking around the building, there was standing water maybe a couple of inches deep in a few spots.
Yep.
It's a pretty wet site.
It is, and one of the things that contributes to that is we found I'm sorry, I'm going to zoom back out. On a lot of Shore Ave, when we dig our test holes, we find a layer of fill and then peat. And this peat, when you dig into it, water doesn't come in.
Right.
But you're well below the pond level. And as soon as you poke through that peat, we usually, within a few feet of the bottom of the peat, we typically get into a nice sand or something similar to a sand, and the water comes in like crazy.
Yeah.
But that peat, will stops the water from being able to get back into the ground. And some of that fill is pretty tight as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very typical of New England soils.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Nancy.
on Shore Avenue, we're real familiar with this whole Shore Avenue, and across the street is Charlie Road, correct? That's an extensive wetland across the road.
Yep.
But we typically have conditioned to have a dewatering truck on site.
Mhm.
Do you think that this basin's going to be adequate? I guess is my question, because a lot of those other houses, like right all the way down Shore Avenue, number one, haven't been able to get away with this kind of a system. They've gotten tight tanks.
Mhm.
And number two, we've required a dewatering truck on site. So
Yep.
that's
No, I agree, Nancy, and they have, the commission has required the trucks on site. Sometimes they're on standby because obviously the less you can pump, we can put into it, as long as the dewatering basin can hold. We're completely amenable to a special condition that if the dewatering basin can't handle the flow, then work is either to cease and the dewatering truck is to be brought on site. Or if they don't want to cease work, then they're to have one on standby. I think that's a completely reasonable request.
okay. My other question is the 31.8% lot coverage.
Yep.
How much? What's the impervious? I mean, have you been by the? All right, let me start again. Have you been by the zoning board yet?
No, we haven't.
Okay. Because it's 25%, and I've been having a real problem lately with it being over that, especially for impervious. So do you have a different percentage for impervious?
No, we break it down pretty simply with the buildings and the driveway on a residential use. The zoning board customarily, because these lots are existing non-conformings, the way that the zoning board has worked for the past 15 plus years that I can remember is you can't make it more non-conforming. And then that's how you can rely on getting a special permit. If you're making something more non-conforming, then you transition.
What was that percent coverage before? Oh, let me look. Existing.
31.9.
Okay, you need 31.8.
Yeah, and that's the reason that is we're actually decreasing the driveway drastically. So the driveway actually came all the way over to here and up. We're also removing several outbuildings as well. So in this case, by removing a lot of the driveway and some of the existing outbuildings, that offsets what we're proposing to do. And it was a strategic approach. I mean, talking my client into removing some of his driveway and parking area, he didn't take that lightly. That was not an easy thing.
But he would have to stay in that same ratio. And I have to be honest with you, Town of Lakeville right now is involved in a regional grant about flooding. And part of the whole problem with the flooding is percent coverage that we're allowing on these lots. And I just
But is that even under our purview?
Say again?
Is that even under our purview? Isn't that zoning?
No, it's under our purview too, because protection of the water. So it is under our purview because it's our responsibility.
So zoning could approve a variance for that, and we could deny it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our responsibility, and like I say, I've said it, and Jamie, it's not just you. I just said this on a similar thing on Long Pond. Is I can't feel like our town can be working really hard and overseeing a grant from the state where we're trying to do everything we can to avoid flooding situations and turn around and vote on something that has a 31.8% lot coverage. I just can't. Maybe everybody else can, but I just can't. It's in a flood zone. It's in natural heritage. And I know that you're going through all the another point is that needs 14 variances to make it work.
You mean for the septic?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were granted.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I personally can't vote on something that's going to do a 31. I just can't be working at two different sides of a
Jamie,
problem.
what's the existing septic? Is it failed, obviously?
It's 2 tight tanks.
Okay.
So, yeah, the DEP considers tight tanks the last resort. They want you to go for full compliance, then local upgrade approval and variances, then bottomless sand filter, and absolute last resort is tight tank, in their order of, I guess, preferability. If that's even a word, Mr. Chamberlain.
It's a word.
All right, thank you. So, Nancy, the only thing I can say here, and I do understand your
Position.
your thought. Yeah, absolutely. Is, all we can do with these, people have existing properties and existing houses. At that time that these were developed, the lot sizes, this was what was required, and some of them are 5,000. We're almost double that here.
Right.
In a case like this, we're looking for a couple of things. One is, yes, they're improving the situation because they're they are reducing, even if it's a little bit, they're reducing some of the impervious. But number two, they're making their structure flood compliant, which is a huge step in the right direction. If nothing is done, and I believe that if this is voted down, nothing would be done, then we're left with actually a higher level of impervious on site. And that's a lose for the town and for everybody.
All right. I'm not understanding what you're saying. A lesser amount of, why do they have to pave the driveway? Why can't, even though you have the coverage, why can't you lessen the impervious?
We are from what's there now. We're going from the 31.9 to the 31.8. And
I know
again,
that's, you blink and you miss that. That's really not, it's negligible. I don't understand why we would have to approve a paved driveway here, why we couldn't require a impervious driveway, which would solve the whole problem and help out with the flooding situation.
so you're talking about a permeable driveway, like stone or something along those lines?
Wouldn't have to be the whole thing. It could be like just where you come in and turn, looks like where they would put an extra car maybe or something. Just get it down to 25% on the impervious.
Well, I don't think that the turnaround would do that.
No.
Mathematically, would the turnaround give you 6%, Jamie?
It's tough to
Like
say.
where you come in off the road, that's a dirt road, correct?
It's like it's a hybrid. Let's put it that way. It's kind of gravel and recycled asphalt. I think if you were to do a permeability test on that, you'd see as next to nothing. Just because it's been so compacted and over the years. Interesting. All right. I understand your situation, Nancy. I get your position. Yeah, no, I do hear your position. I don't have an answer. I would have to reach out to my client if that's how the board is going to overall, if that's the board's overall position on this, then I would have to reach out and ask them.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I would be satisfied with more than 25% coverage, even if they were able to achieve a little bit better than what's there. I think that they are making a significant improvement. And to Mr. Bissonette's point, they could do nothing and it would remain at almost 32%. If I think it would be satisfactory if he could maybe turn the turnaround into stone or pervious and get it to 30% even, or 29%. I think that would be a fair compromise considering they already have that lot coverage.
Yeah, I agree. It is a betterment overall, and to do nothing only increases the problem. It doesn't solve anything. Jamie, I'm looking at the at Shore Ave. Is there anything that could be done along the edge of the road to stop some of that flooding that's going on? I noticed all the homes in that area, they all flood, even with just a small amount of rainfall, and it becomes kind of a hazard. Is there something we could do there that might do both, that might give us some more pervious cover and maybe help solve that flooding issue?
You know, I haven't given it a super good look, Mr. Bouchard. That it's a good question. We did work on Beech Tree with some flooding issues years back. But I haven't looked at the overall picture here. I think what you're going to find, part of the reason for the flooding on the lots is that they're as flat as a pancake. If you look at the water side, I'm at roughly 54.8 for an elevation of 55.1 over in here. And you come up over here and I'm at elevation 55, 54.8. There's literally just about no differential, no constant slope. So when water hits it, there's not much of a place for it to run. If drainage or if something was put in, that absolutely may help. I'm just not sure that it's permittable with the pond and the pond status,
Right.
and and it being private roads. It's a good question.
Yeah. And isn't the lot next door is vacant?
This is the beach, and there's a house right here on this lot, and then this is actually the association's beach. So yep, it's vacant.
Amy, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The FEMA compliant flood walls.
Yes.
They're solid walls, but with portions that are designed to give if there's any real pressure on them. Or is it
correct.
Is it open?
Well, you can do it a few ways. They typically recommend the way that you most commonly see it is it's going to be openings about the size of a basement window, maybe 8 to 12 inches tall and could be 24 inches long. Those openings are sized based on the square footage of the actual structure in compliance with FEMA. And what a lot of people will do is they'll put louvers on them. So when the pressure comes up, they'll open, and then as the pressure goes down, they'll go back down.
Okay.
So that way raccoons and skunks don't wander into your basement area.
Yeah, that was my concern, because if you have anything that's left open, critters say, "Oh, good, an animal."
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that have come up with pretty nifty ideas to stop that from happening. I've seen screens or grates, but a lot of it is just mechanical, where it's purely, by gravity. There are springs, the water comes up, and then when the water goes down, it closes.
So there's nothing that's designed to give way and collapse into the cellar, and then have to be reinstalled afterwards.
No, not especially not in a case like this. I mean, the 100-year flood, we're talking about maybe 2 feet 4 inches, 2 feet 3 inches in height. That's not going to knock over these walls. That's just going to open up the louvers and allow the water to come in, and then allow it to recede when it's done.
Okay.
We do deal with those collapsible walls and velocity zones on the ocean.
Yeah, they're common on ocean, exactly.
It is. Yeah, you have to have your structural piers designed not to give, but the walls in between are supposed to actually collapse. Yep.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman?
No? Is that it for questions? All right. Then I will hear a motion, either for or against.
I'll make the motion. I'm not going to vote for it, but I'll make the motion. I make a motion that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with all our standard conditions. And additionally, if the dewatering basin cannot handle the amount of water, the project will stop and dewatering truck will be required. Natural Heritage has 30 days to respond and add conditions.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So we'll do a roll call vote.
Discussion? Mr. Chair,
Oh, oh.
discussion?
Was there any additional discussion? I'm sorry.
Did we find out whether or not the ZBA has given?
They
us-
have not.
They have not. Do we
No.
want to somehow write this into our motion?
I don't know what that means.
Maybe
Oh,
make it
pending
conditional?
pending
Pending.
ZBA
It'll be
approval?
subject to their approval. You're right.
All right, pending. Do you have a date for that, Jamie?
I do not.
Okay.
So I think we wanted to see tonight, and then probably we'll be filing the beginning of next year, maybe even closer to the spring with zoning board. I know right now zoning board's next meeting is in January as we stand now.
Okay.
Not if I was to file today, I wouldn't get on till January. So
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, then let's do the roll call. Joseph,
Aye.
Nancy,
Nay.
Mark,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Josh,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the motion carries.
Could I just, I wanted to bring up one point with Nancy, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Would there be a percentage on that lot that you would have supported that wasn't 25%, somewhere in the middle there?
Probably not. And to be honest, I'm gonna put on my APC grant hat probably and go to the zoning board because we really have to start somewhere not allowing this to happen if we really are seriously concerned about the flooding issues.
Nancy,
I just
we
can't
have-
work on that on one side and then vote against, vote for something that's opposed to what we're trying to accomplish. As a
Nancy.
town, as a region.
Nancy, do we in any way generate a possible or potential loss of the grant by so voting like we do, like we just did?
No, we have the grant and we're working on it and they're gonna come up with, and part of that is doing some regulations in all the regional towns. We're all gonna be working on the same thing to try to strengthen up our, well, it's already there, the 25%. It's just what we keep burying it all the time.
Well, it's not a variance if he has it pre-existing.
Right, but he's gonna build a whole new house, so he should do a better job. He's gonna follow all the MEMA stuff, but he also should be taking into consideration the percent coverage stuff.
Right. So I guess, and again, just to reiterate, my point would be for round numbers, not decimal points. They're roughly at 32% coverage. And I know this is already water under the bridge, but on the next project, if they got it to 28%, they approved by 4%, but they were still 3% over the 25%. I feel like the board would have done their job to make a significant improvement on something that is pre-existing, that if we did nothing, would have stayed at 4% higher. That wouldn't have
Right.
satisfied you?
Right, but we have the ability as a conservation commission to say they can't pave the driveway, or they can pave, between the house and the driveway or partial or something. But that's our purview to do that. And it's just my opinion. That's what we should be doing.
I fully respect your opinion, and I don't begrudge you at all for opposing our motion, but I just wanted to get a better sense of where you stood on it as far as the percentages. And I appreciate your input.
Okay.
Can I add just a couple of quick thoughts on this? As we're discussing ways to possibly get to probably, I guess, the same goal, which is try to minimize flooding and impact. One of the things that Lakeville doesn't push as hard as a lot of the surrounding towns is infiltration, clean water from roofs infiltrating. A lot of towns will actually credit you your roof area off of your total impervious if you infiltrate it. And if you think about it from a common sense standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. If you're taking that water and putting it back into the ground, it's technically not impervious. You're getting the water back. You're doing what is intended. So one of the things that that we could consider going forward is maybe some roof infiltration or some kind of an infiltration system. Even when you're in floodplains like this, during the events like we have right now, the pond is low. The rain we had from this week, we could infiltrate into the ground and help recharge that groundwater elevation. There would be times that it wouldn't work because of groundwater in tough situations, but like Nancy said, it's in the right direction. And like Mark said, we're doing what we can while also not trying to stop, progress.
Right.
So if it
And
was,
I hope some of the stuff that's gonna come out of the grant are recommendations of what we can do, and that sounds like a good thing, Jamie.
Yeah. So for example, every structure in New Bedford that's built now, you're infiltrating the 1-inch storm over the entire roof area. So you're taking if you have a 2,000 square foot roof, you're taking 1 inch of rain over it, and you're putting in infiltration dry wells for that. And what that does is that helps get that water back into the ground and recharge.
Right, and it's not sheet blowing off the roof and going where, not
Or-
infiltrating back into.
Four little rivers from the bottom of the downspouts running down into the pond.
Right,
Exactly.
bringing
Yep.
God knows what with it.
Yep.
I want to add to this, is there, in towns like New Bedford that you just mentioned, Jamie,
Yep.
is that calculation at that point, if you had, say, 1,500 square feet of roof, looking at the footprint, not with the slopes, but that's how it's calculated. Is the
It's just looking at the overall footprint. That's correct.
Does a town like that, if you infiltrate roof runoff into the ground, do they credit you the entire roof? Or is it a percentage of?
I can't say that New Bedford does. New Bedford's calculations are a little different. So for example, and I'm looking at one actually right now, in New Bedford, you can actually, on a lot, and their minimum in residential A district is 8,000 square foot lots. You can go 30% building coverage, not impervious, but just building. And then they require that you leave 35% of the lot as green area, trees and lawn. Besides that, you can build it up, driveway, whatever it is you need. But so I don't think we really run into that case in that town. I do know Dartmouth was operating on, you could infiltrate the roof and you can subtract that area square foot for square foot off.
Entirely.
Exactly. I'm not sure that they do that right now, but I think it's a fantastic, it gives people motivation to want to do it because there is an expense to it. So if you're able to say, well, yeah, you're still at 25%, but with zoning, if you infiltrate your roof, then you can put in other things. You can get what you may want on site, a pool or whatever it is.
So
And it's a win-win.
Nancy, if
Yes,
that was a condition in the future, I would support that. Would you be satisfied with something like that?
yes.
So-
And that's an innovative things that we're trying to do through this grant regionally. It's not just Lakeville, it's regionally.
Good. I'm glad we had that conversation. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, me too.
I'm happy to talk anytime you guys want about it. So,
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have called you in advance about this, but I really didn't look at it. I'm cooking for Thanksgiving, so I didn't really look at it until this afternoon.
I understand, and I've presented this exact situation so many times that it didn't really even dawn on me that there would be a thought. I thought tonight would be maybe 5 minutes, and because I see it as an improvement. Flood compliance is a big thing, but I do understand where you're coming from, Nancy, and I think there's ways to help stride and make the town better towards that.
Great. All right, this was good.
All right.
Yeah. Keep the edge
Jamie,
coming.
Yes, sir.
Jamie, if you had to ballpark it on this project, if you got pervious for the roof credit, would it be under 25?
Well, let me pop the screen back up because we got the numbers right there. Yeah, because it's 1,200 square feet.
So I think this is something we should look forward to doing in the future. I think it makes sense.
Yep.
Great.
I think so. That would be good. I mean, Jamie, that wouldn't kill a project for you, would it? I mean, to put in.
How much cost would that add to this, Jamie?
Well, it depends, because it's obviously based on size, and there's so many ways to look at it. I think the big thing that,
Water table is in effect too.
well, it could. I mean, so again, it's one of those situations where it's not required by stormwater management and roof runoff is clean. So the overall intent of it is trying to get the water back into the ground. We're in a floodplain. So if there is flood conditions and we're getting rain, obviously it's not going to get into the ground. The ground's flooded. So what you have to think about at that point is we're already in a flood state. It's going to come out the overflows, not a big deal. The big part is on the regular day, like today and this week when it rains, and that water is coming down and getting back and recharging the ground, and it's keeping that water from getting directly into the pond, as everybody else is hitting the pond at the same time. Might delay it by going through the groundwater, but it's taking time. So in cases like this, the roof infiltration would be in the groundwater most likely. We have no choice. Shore Ave is pretty much groundwater almost at surface, but it's an improvement. It's a stride in the right direction. And then there's other sites, a ton of them on the pond, that we can actually do it and be out of the groundwater. I think it just needs to be some common sense engineering applied when you're doing it.
Right. It might not work on Shore Avenue, but it might have worked like last week over on Long Pond where they're not actually in the floodplain.
Exactly. I know plenty of sites I've come to you with that, we could implement that and be perfectly fine.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Sounds good.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right.
you.
Happy
Bye, Jamie.
Thanksgiving.
You too.
We have minutes?
What's that?
Minutes?
Well, first, just a quick review on 43D. Things are proceeding. As you know, Nancy, you and Joe and Mark, I think we all visited the site, walked it, especially the area around the abandoned landfill, and the Rhino people have been out there as well to verify the line with their wetland specialist. We have a hearing scheduled for December 3rd. And my question is, did all of you get copies of the plans of the notice of intent for this property? We don't have hard copies for everyone, but I can get copies of the NOI if you prefer that to looking at it digitally. So
I didn't.
I didn't get anything, but I would love a copy of the NOI. I took the plans the day we went on the site visit.
or yeah, Nancy, you've got the plans, you just don't have the NOI
Notice
itself.
of intent, right?
All right, well, what I'll do is I'll ask them for some additional copies and we'll put them in the vestibule so that if you really don't like looking at it digitally, and I don't, I prefer a hard copy, we'll make it available for you.
Can you ask them to send it out digitally again? I never got anything.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I'll discuss with Lori to see what happened if it didn't go out.
Did anyone else get it?
I didn't get it
No.
digitally. No.
I
And
don't think-
I'd want a hard copy also, Bob.
Okay,
I saw a set through the 43D committee, but I haven't seen
Yeah.
anything come
Alright.
from Lori's.
Okay.
and I've got a roll of plans, and there's really only a couple of pages that are pertinent. But if you want to look at the whole kit and caboodle, why don't you give me a call and we can set up a time when you can come into the office and look it over before the hearing on the 3rd.
Oh, it's actually having the hearing on the 3rd?
Yes.
First one.
Okay.
There will be multiple, and not to cut you off, Mr. Chair, but
No, go ahead.
discuss. I think there will be at least 6 public hearings. They will all be joint public hearings between respective boards, depending on the topic of the night, because it's such a big project. The first night is just the overview, where the developer and the engineer will introduce the project to all the boards. So on December 3rd, the Planning Board, Board of Health, and Conservation Commission will all be present at that meeting. And then it will be continued to a later date. It'll be announced at the meeting. And certain boards may or may not be invited to the next meeting. For example, the second meeting, and I'm not speaking in fact, I'm not looking at the schedule right now, but it may not have any subject matter that pertains to Concom on the second one. It may be a Board of Health and Planning Board meeting. And then the third one may be back to Concom. And I'm not stating that in fact, it's just, I know the Planning Board has to attend every one, but Concom, I think, has the first one and then maybe two more.
So are they sending out invitations for that December 3rd meeting?
I believe they just started posting it. There was some discrepancy about the clerks posting it or the permits coordinator for 43D posting the first one. So there will be information coming.
Okay. Fair enough.
So back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right. So I guess that's it for Lakeville Hospital, unless someone else had a question. All right, then we'll move on to the minutes for September 29th. Look good to everyone?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 29th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion carries. I think that's it, unless someone else has any comments or we're all good. Well, then,
That's it.
how about a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving. Bob, I'll send you the motions, but probably not until after the holiday.
That's quite all right.
I seconded the motion to adjourn.
Second, so motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.